12:01. My name is Keith Schneider from the University of Florida. Welcome to the 2024 Food Safety Outreach Program, sponsored by USDA NIFA. All of you grant awardees. We have a seminar today, a webinar today, and again, another one on Tuesday. So if you haven't registered for Tuesday's webinar, please go use the link and or get a hold of Peggy, and she will get you all set up. And with that, my duties end, at least on the microphone. So I'm going to turn it over to today's moderator, Ellen Johnson of Iowa State University. So Ellen, the show is yours.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm very excited to welcome you to our 2024 Food Safety Outreach Project Program webinar. Let's see here. We have 14 people scheduled to present over the next 2 webinars, 7 each day. There'll be different ones. If you aren't able to attend the one on Tuesday, we are recording these webinars and they will be posted to the Clearinghouse. At the beginning of the week, when we put these slides together, we had over 100 people registered to attend, although if you registered for today and for next Tuesday, you got counted twice. And those people represent over 26 states and 45 different universities and organizations. Here you will see a list of people who work for the regional centers and the lead regional center. You'll also see our USDA NIFA contacts, Jody and Colin. Just wanted to say a special thank you to Peggy Guerin of the lead regional center for all your work organizing all of this and making sure everything runs smoothly here today. One of the requirements of receiving an FSOP award is that you present so that everybody can know the new resources that you've created. We can know what new curriculum are available, and you can fulfill that obligation either by presenting at a meeting like this or at the in-person project directors meeting scheduled for next spring sometime, or at one of your regional center meetings. Now, you might notice that no one from the Western Regional Center is scheduled to present over the next 2 webinars, and that's because all of them fulfilled that obligation at their regional meeting last spring. So apparently going to Hawaii was a little bit of an incentive to get that presentation made. Real quickly, here is the agenda for today. We are going to take a 5-minute break in the middle, so you'll have a chance to at least walk away from your computer screen for a couple minutes and stretch your legs. At the end of the day, we do have a brief evaluation that we hope that you will fill out. It is a different evaluation next Tuesday, so even if you're planning to be at both, please fill out the evaluation here today. A couple of last housekeeping notes. Please be sure that your microphone is on mute. If you haven't already, please put your name and where you're from in the chat. It's just nice to know who folks are and where they're all joining from. Like he said, everyone has 10 minutes to present. If they finish before that time, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or put them in the chat, and Keith will be monitoring that. If they do take the full 10 minutes, then we will wait till the very end and do questions for all of our presenters then. That is all of my housekeeping announcements. So Jody and Colin are here to tell us about the Food Safety Outreach Project.
All right, good morning. Well, good afternoon and good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Williams from USDA NIFA. I'm going to give a quick update on the Food Safety Outreach Program, and my colleague Colin is joining us as well. So the Food Safety Outreach Competitive Grant Program provides funding for food safety training and education for small and mid-sized producers and processors that are affected by the Food Safety Modernization Act, with a specific focus on reaching underserved communities. We've completed processing by way of update. We have completed processing the recommended awards for fiscal year 2024. We've also sent out our decline letters, and all parties have been notified either way. Please reach out to me if you have not received any feedback from our office. Sometimes those things do get stuck in our junk mailboxes. And then when you're looking to apply, you're looking for those comments and reviews, and it's kind of last minute and we're scrambling trying to find. So please, if you can't find or you haven't been able to locate any of the comments, make sure you get the PI to send me an email. Remember, we can't communicate with collaborators. So make sure you get the PI to send me an email, or if you are the PI, please send me an email and let me know. The press release for the award should be posted, I'm hoping for late October. maybe a little bit earlier, but late October, ideally for the press release for the current for this fiscal year's awardees. The Food Safety Outreach Program request for application will likely post in the late fall, early winter. We're looking for a very similar timeline from last year. We're not looking to make a lot of changes, so we should be able to maintain a similar timeline. Proposals will be due also on that same timeline. We're planning to solicit for 3 priorities. We're removing the regional center priority this year, as you can anticipate. So we'll have the community outreach program, collaborative education, training, and technical assistance priorities posted. As I mentioned, we're not looking to make a lot of changes from year to year. All priorities will still be eligible for the collaborative engagement supplement. That additional $150,000 for meaningful collaborations with minority serving institutions. Please be sure that the collaborations are meaningful. The panel is on the lookout for those red herrings. So for folks that it's not a true collaboration, we're definitely on the lookout for those. And the whole proposal gets declined. So if you're not able to make a meaningful collaboration, just don't submit the collaborative engagement. Please make sure those engagements are meaningful. We're really also pushing that technical assistance priority. We're looking to increase the number of proposals in this space. And these proposals support the development and refinement of grant writing skills and provide grant writing resources for institutions that don't necessarily have those resources inherent within their organizations. These resources should target entities that support individuals or groups that are led by and directly interact with the underserved population that we're looking to work with. And that includes new applicants, community-based organizations, and minority-serving institutions to strengthen applications to the Food Safety Outreach Program from these entities. But of course, those skills will also translate to other programs as well. So we're asking that applicants work collaboratively with the regional centers when they're looking to submit these technical assistance priorities to ensure broad coverage and outreach to their specific regions and communities. And that'll include things such as coordinating and communicating workshops and sessions through the centers, as well as utilizing regional center websites, portals, and social media feeds to share toolkits, webinars, and other resources. Be creative as possible. The grant writing resources developed will significantly increase, ideally, the number of successful applicants from organizations that support food safety education and training services, servicing the FSOP's target audience. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat, or you can ask them to me now if we have time. It's up to you guys how you want me to manage it. Ellen?
We have 1 more minute, so we have time for a quick question. Yes.
Okay.
Again, if anybody does have a question, you can use the raise hand function, and or if you don't want to speak on or live, just throw it in the chat, and I'll read them out for everyone.
Okay, well, seeing no questions, thank you everyone for joining our webinar number 1. Faith, please go ahead. Our program has begun. That looks good.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to share some of the outcomes and outputs from our food safety outreach project, which is titled Bridging the Gaps of Approaches for Treating Pre-Harvest Agricultural Water on Farm. You can see here that we have a really diverse team of institutions involved in this project, and we've been doing a lot of hard work. We're in our final year, and so we're wrapping up the project, which will be completed in mid-October. So as far as why this project and why the need for training, we know that pre-harvest water treatment has been identified by growers and also within the regulatory framework or the produce safety rule as a remediation step to try and counteract some of the potential contamination that may be coming from pre-harvest agricultural water. And we know that growers have also been looking at this strategy when they're trying to figure out what would be their backup plan, basically, because it's not as if you can just go without irrigation or protective sprays and things along those lines and actually get a crop to market. We know that, it's far more than just irrigation water when we're looking at these applications. We also have, water applications for fertigation, definitely those crop protective sprays like foliar sprays, where we're putting on to try and protect against a plant pathogen or insect. We also have, of course, cooling water, which is many times used to maintain temperature of a product and to keep it from having sunburn or some other issues associated with quality. And then, of course, we also have frost protection for when our temperatures dip to try and preserve the quality of those products. We know that, if people started to look at treatment without any sort of training or understanding of the complexity there, that it is probably going to set them up for failure and most likely lead to that intervention not being applied successfully. So we set out to create this curriculum, which was actually part of our first food safety outreach project, was just getting the curriculum built that we subsequently delivered in this round of funding. For this approach, we had a 4-part curriculum developed by our team. It had 4 modules that were focused on, first, ag water treatment and the Food Safety Modernization Act. Secondly, looking at agricultural water treatment tools, where we actually go into some of the details around different approaches for treating pre-harvest agricultural water, the chemistries behind that, and some of the nuances to their application. We then built that out into the 3rd module for actually developing on-farm agricultural water treatment programs. And then lastly, pulled it all together with an implementation module for our final module, actually helping them piece everything together and apply it within different scenarios and actually go through some of those monitoring activities. This curriculum involves videos, interactive test strip, virtual labs, hands-on activities, in addition to the PowerPoints and written materials that were presented. We hosted both grower training and train the trainers. That was the primary thrust of this grant, to try and spread these resources that were developed across the United States. So that's what I'll present on. As far as our objective of training people across the United States, we had 2 different focus groups for our training. The first was train the trainers, so that we can interact with those individuals who are actively involved in grower education and help provide them with this information so that they could either deliver trainings to the stakeholders that they work with, or go and just have that training as background knowledge for when they're trying to advise and support growers with their questions. Across our 4-year period, we had 183 participants. 39 states and territories were represented in our Train the Trainers. Based upon a pre-test and post-test, we had a 20.95 increase in knowledge, and the participants, of course, left with all the materials to deliver the content to their stakeholders. 82.7% of the participants indicated they would use it to support growers and allied industries through one-on-one interactions, and a little bit below 60% said they planned on using it for their own training with the stakeholders that they served. As far as outcomes go, we asked them 3 basic questions, and we had 94% of the participants in the Train the Trainer saying that they agree or strongly agree with these statements. They felt better equipped to discuss water treatment options. They had gained a better perspective for steps involved in treating pre-harvest agricultural water. And lastly, they had a better understanding of sanitizer chemistries through this training. Moving into the grower training as our second stakeholder group that is really important, since they're the ones actively managing pre-harvest agricultural water in their operations. Overall, throughout this program, we trained 362 growers. We had a 21.95% increase in knowledge based upon that pre and post test. And the course was rated really favorably with growers with a rating of 4.6 on a 5-point Likert scale. You can see here some of the pictures from both classroom as well as hands-on activities. Of course, we had for our in-person classes, our mobile unit for disinfection, which is what you see in that lower corner, and with John Buchanan out there, member of our team. And then, of course, though, for our virtual classes, we adapted these to kind of virtual delivery of videos so that they still got the same experience while it wasn't actually hands-on. You were still able to make decisions based upon outcomes of the videos presented to you. So really happy with this overall delivery. We also have a series of videos that I mentioned earlier. These videos were initially developed as part of our first food safety outreach project. Overall, through the course of this project, they have had on average 4.2 thousand to 2.6 thousand views amongst them. The one standout that's a little different is UV light. As you can see, it has had over 100,000 views on YouTube. So a little bit more interest there versus the others, but I still think a very good dissemination across the board there. I mention these because we took as part of this grant funding and have translated these videos so that they are now available in Spanish, Haitian Creole, Mandarin, and Hindi. These will be disseminated through our irrigation website at New Mexico, that's hosted from New Mexico State, and that will be up very soon. And they will also be shared on YouTube, where we've seen wider dissemination. I would be remiss if, I didn't recognize the great members of our team that have all contributed a lot to this project. We have a really excellent group coming together. I'll start with New Mexico State. The Learning Games Lab group there have been excellent supporting our video production and working with all the translations, which are a little bit tricky considering that with different languages, you have different timing of everything. So making sure that was right and actually accurate in the terminology that was used for those videos. Lastly, we have our group of deliverers, is what I would say for our secondary group. Virginia Tech, Alexis Hamilton, and Laura Strawn. At the University of Georgia, my colleague Laurel Dunn. University of Tennessee, John Buchanan and Annette Wozlacki. University of Arizona, Shanna Rock. And then at University of Florida, Michelle Danieluk, Chris Gunn, and Taylor O'Banion. So thank you all very much for your attention, and that is my presentation.
Thank you so much. We still have 2 minutes left, so people have questions, please put them in the chat or unmute yourself. Okay, well, Faith, thanks so much for all you had to say. Now, Hans and Vernon, please take it away.
Thank you very much. I'll share my screen here and get going. Let's see. You all see this?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's try that.
Yep, so far so good.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Hans Estrin, and I am a produce safety specialist from the University of Vermont. And my supervisor, Vern Grubinger, who's also on this call, has been a key partner in this project, which is Community Accreditation for Produce Safety, CAPS, to meet the needs of small and mid-sized farms. So CAPS has been going for a while. 2015, we're almost 10 years in, and it is a program that is really a resource-linked produce safety plan builder. That's a good way to think about it, and it's an accreditation program built by growers in partnership with this state of Vermont and Extension. And included in this program is education in TA, really helping our farmers plan, adopt, and document their best practices. So CAPS is also, the way to think about it is it's really an easy on-ramp to produce safety. It helps growers, small growers, put on produce safety sunglasses, so to speak, to see their farm and document their practices based on accepted practices. And we really guide them through that. And there are three, although it's easy on-ramp, there are three accreditation levels that really meet the needs of the buyers and the markets they're trying to get into. So CAPS Plus and CAPS Plus LGS, which stands for Leafy Green Supplement, is a benchmark program to the Harmonized GAP. And it is better for the higher risk crops selling into wholesale markets. And CAPS, so this is always includes, obviously, that higher level of third-party accreditation. So you can get an eye on sort of some of the farms. These aren't all of them, but many of them opt in. So the farms that are dotted in this are from Vermont, Quebec, New Hampshire, New York, mostly from Vermont. And what's interesting about this map is that you can actually click into any of these dots and view a farm's produce safety plan, their documents. So this is something that the growers in the program can do, but you can't get into it from the outside. So it is a sharing community, peer sharing. And that's the community part of it. And it was real surprising to me how powerful this part of the program has been right from the start. And so it's really supporting growers, supporting each other. We're kind of taking advantage of growers wanting to norm and norm to their group norm, the standards that the whole industry has kind of put forward collectively. And so it strengthens not only their farms, but also our industry as a whole. So about 200 growers have participated in these years since 2015, and it's about 130 in the program right now. Typical farms are small, so it's about 10 acre average, but I would say the majority of the farms are below 10 acres, and they have 1 to 3, 4 employees. So from small axe farm is like an off-grid farm to our bigger farms like Harlow Farms, 250 acres, diversified wholesale, really good CSA farms. Heron Pond is in New Hampshire, great wholesale farm as well. So many farms like this, but they're all over the board. And so this project in particular, we keep working at this. It's a constant sort of improvement, continuous improvement. And this project in particular builds on the shoulders of the Veg and Berry Growers Association that has worked for decades with Extension and Vern Grubinger, my supervisor, who's on this call. And it is a program, sort of the Veg and Berry growers have helped to build the organic program in the state, and the social capital amongst these growers and the sharing goes on is pretty phenomenal. People from around who come into the state sort of can't believe it. So that is what makes, in a way, a lot of this work. And we've done needs assessments of farms recently, especially with all the flooding and disasters happening, and get a good sense of these growers. We know them all really well, several hundred of them. And this recent FSOP that ended last year, SCRUB, which stands for sanitizing and cleaning resources for your business. This is one of these liberal acronyms. And Chris Cangliang, who's on this call as well, was part of this project. And this was an amazing project for us. And really, what we're doing right now builds directly off of that. So dozens of new resources and case studies that came right out of working with our growers. Foundational for this project. And then the National Farmers Union, we did a survey with them. We partnered and DEI listening sessions. Also really kind of highlighted that growers, our smaller limited resource growers, really want to see themselves in educational materials and work with what they have. And so that's really what we are doing. And our major strategy in this, we're 1 year into this FSOP, but we're taking, from what we've learned, we know that these growers really want to do the right thing in terms of produce safety, but they really are too maxed out. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And the max out has to do with limited time, money, material resources on their farm. Examples like, a farm that doesn't even have a good source of water. Like, how are they going to actually do the stuff that were the recommended practices? So we've really got to back up, work with them where they are. So basically, the traditional extension education approach, it doesn't work that well. What we've really realized over time is that when we meet growers where they are, and over time, and have a co-learning kind of approach where we build trusted relationships, then all of a sudden we can turn the tables on this TA, because it becomes something that can fit into the work they do. And the kind of social capital that we have working with growers allows us to actually leverage some of the stuff that we are putting out, and the growers see themselves in that work, and it has been much more effective. So this is a picture of Chris sweating here with one of the growers and working on some cold storage issues. But basically, Chris has been great, and we're working with this team, our ag engineering team as well, teaming up with growers to solve problems and work with what they have. So really intensive grower consults combined, and then we document. So this next step is this journey, right, is to document this work, learn from it, and then inform broadly shared produce safety resources and educational events. So for CAPS, what we're doing here is, again, this really intensive individual consult. And then from that, based on this stuff, collectively designing collaborative educational events based on issues, and then creating resources from those from all that work and the peer-to-peer learning. And specifically with CAPS, we're focused on these smaller farms to really train them how to use the CAPS platform. And these are farms that we are doing case management with as well, and how to apply these best practices based on what they have. So an example, this is a recent example right from this August. This farm up in the upper left, Chris knows about this too, but they had a burn from peracetic acid treating their water when they were dosing. And, there's previous resources that Chris has put out in these twin neck bottles. You'll see one there. And basically, we just, when that had happened, I met with them, and Chris had emailed with them, and we had worked with this farm, Digger's Mirth. And I just, we figured out this solution, and we talked about this. I came up with this idea of, okay, well, this would be a great starter kit to just really think about a resource that actually would help growers first time to start sanitizing their water. It's a big sort of barrier for growers to get into it. So to have some real, and of course, Digger's Mirth, this farm we've been working with for years. So this case management thing over time, this is the pack shed they're in, we've worked with, and, to help them develop it, et cetera, over time. Now, so it starts there. I've drafted this sort of research starter kit, which is in progress right now. But immediately, few weeks ago, I get this email, a farm is trying to get in and capture an emergent microgreens market that had just come up because a big company went out of business in Brattleboro area in Vermont. And they needed to hop right into it. And they were just bought some equipment, were getting going, and they didn't have any sanitizer, didn't know anything about it. So I was able to actually, from this thing, come in and do a consult with them and help them just meet what they needed to do to meet the requirements for the CAPS program and get into this market. That will continue. We'll finalize this resource. So that's kind of the way things work, this feedback that works over time. So these are the 4 methods, right? And we're doing work this year 1 progress, right? These individual consults, a lot of intensive work, and a lot of emails back and forth. I think there's been 400, but with unique farms. Many farms are getting a lot of support. And then educational events that come up out of that, and creating resources, so a few in progress, and training on the CAPS platform. So we're getting new growers involved as well. That's about the end. I really want to thank the whole team, and particularly Vern, my supervisor, who's here, and Chris Callahan, who's also here, Elizabeth Newbold. Really an amazing group of our team, and then the growers as well. So to work collaboratively and collectively with these growers is an incredibly meaningful thing. It goes both ways, and it is that meaning that is, I think, a big part of how we've been effective in the work that we're doing and continue to do. I really look forward to this project continuing and really starting to link some more really valuable and needed resources for these smaller farms. And with that, thank you very much.
Hans, thanks for explaining your project so complex. It's time for our 3rd speaker. Suzie, you are up next.
All right. Thank you, Ellen, for sharing the slides for me. Since I am at another meeting today. All right, I am Suzie Marshall with the Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. Our food safety project is building capacity for our farms and our farm organizations in Texas. Next slide.
Sorry, I don't know what I did here.
For a half second, I thought it was me. Thank you. Okay, so we aimed to meet the needs of really small, like beginning new farms, usually diversified, lots of fruits and vegetables, selling direct to consumer, maybe even within their communities directly. And these are likely farms that will that may never do wholesale, and they're definitely not at the level to even think about doing gaps. So we're really at the very basic level, wanting to provide something for growers that that really need it in very plain language, very simplified. So the idea of the whole project is to create a set of trainings that can be used again and again by either TOFCA or other partner organizations around the state that can just get everybody started at a really basic level with food safety as part of farming, and help them understand that it is just what we need to be doing, and help them understand just the whole process of assessment and mitigation, and doing those simple things and knowing where to look for problems, and then how they do that in their setting and at their scale. And then it makes it easier with that base. If they do decide to scale up and move into a wholesale situation, they'll have the foundation for that. So we've included multiple other nonprofits and to help build their food safety knowledge, so that they can then go on and just as Vermont was talking about, the farmers and the organizations will have better capacity to help each other. Because I don't know if y'all realize, Texas is a big state, and we have to be really smart in how we work statewide. We're also implementing a resource hub on the TOFCA website. Okay, next slide. We've had several challenges to our project, so we are not at pace. Our collaborator capacity changed, and then the project coordinator actually left the job really almost before we got funded, or right after as we got funded. And then I've had health challenges. So we've really struggled a little bit, but not to dwell on that. Next slide. We have had some successes in getting some things ramped up. Our plan was to do two sets of 3 topics and workshops, and present those around the state. Or actually, I shouldn't say around the state. We really are focused on North Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then Central Texas in the broader Austin, San Antonio, Central Texas area. And originally we had talked about doing the Valley, which is far South Texas, but we have moved over to Houston with some partners there. So that is actually kind of the eastern half of the state, which is where the majority of the fruit and vegetable growers are at the scale that we're working with. So we have had some successes in trainings and are continuing. We've redeveloped our timeline, engaged some new collaborators, and are off and running with that. We'll be working with the Texas Center for Local Food on at least one, if not more, online courses that will then sit on their platform and be available all the time for some of the standard stuff. And making it really focused on the farms that TOFCA typically works with, and that the other partner organizations typically work with, so that it's accessible language-wise, online, accessibility wise, and all of those things. I think that might be it for now. Yep. It's my contact information. Go short and sweet for today's presentation. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Somebody feels like there's something I missed.
Could you put your contact information back on the screen? I missed it.
Can everybody see that?
I can see it.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Thanks for confirming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susie, for sharing about your project that's unique. Shen, now it's your turn to speak. Is the screen sharing working?
And you'll need to come off mute.
Looks good. I
You're
still
still
can't
on
hear
mute.
you. Yeah.
There you go.
Let me just. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I was asked for whether I can give a presentation like 3 days ago. Then I said I'm happy to go. And I'm Shen from West Virginia University. I'm professor and the extension specialist there. So the project is about expand the current FSMA for West Virginia very small local produce growers. And we're going to add the content of the triple wash and some of our outreach activities. So first of all, I would love to share a very brief story about the beginning of the project. This is a start from the lab research. That was like 7 years ago before the pandemic. We had Tom McConnell, which is a chair. He's a chair of WV Small Farm Conference Center, and with Lisa Jones as program coordinator, she is a co-PD of this project. We were just to see accidentally in the elevator, and both of them asked me to do a triple wash validation study for local small farms at West Virginia. And they just know the name, and I don't even know what is that. I said that based on my many years of the microbiology experiences, I can certainly do that. So I go to the website and I search online. It is come out with Iowa State University in 2003, related to the food contamination and the decontamination microbial pathogens on the food contact surfaces. So that is a triple wash, as including the 3 steps, which could be water rinse, antimicrobial dip, water rinse, and water rinse, and antimicrobial dip. The difference is the antimicrobial dip right in the middle, and the contact 45 seconds. So we did a lot of the lab research, lots of publications, but haven't been doing any of the outreach activities. And this is the SANI date, which is they recommended to be using during the triple wash. SANI date 5.0, $311 one 5-gallon pail. It's a mix of peroxyacetic acid and hydrogen peroxide. It has been approved to be using on organic produce processing. And I have to be emphasized, and also the reviewers of the panel, when they review my proposal, has been pointed out, and I agree with that, the FSMA does not require the fresh produce has to be washed if they are selling at farmers markets or at a distributor local. However, it's a little bit special here, which is the wholesale distributor company, the Appalachian Harvest, located in Downfield, Virginia. They collect the produce from 120 very small produce growers in West Virginia, as they require to be sanitized using Sanidate 5.0 and prefer to go through the triple wash process. So this is the background of what this community project comes from. And we have 3 objectives here, which is including conduct a survey of the pre-harvest, post-harvest practices related to the root cause of the microbial contamination, the knowledge of FSMA for the safety rules, and conduct in-person plant on-site workshop and remote training, and as a supplement of the FSMA trainer workshop, and develop a handbook of the triple wash for WV very small local produce growers. So we finished the part of the work. So for example, we worked with our WV Small Farm Conference Center, and my graduate student, Rebecca Sterns, is got PhD, and one of her chapter is conducted this farmers market survey of small local produce growers, the knowledge of microbial class contamination and perception for the triple wash. So some of the results you can see here. Would you apply 3 steps wash to reduce microbial safety? You can see around like 20% of the people said yes, compared to like less than 10% said no. And have you heard of that? We can see only a very limited amount, maybe like 10% of people heard about 3 steps wash. More than 27% doesn't know about that. Considering of the implementation of the triple wash methods, what are their major concern? It's low cost, it's easy to implement, and the easy access to the information and easy to integrate is their major considerations. And then we ask them what type of the triple wash training methods they prefer to do, and 31% likes attending the workshops, and the online training video have 23%, followed by that. And then we have equally 15% and 16% about you going through webinar, website, or brochure materials. And the last thing we ask them, quantification aspects of adopting the triple wash method. And lots of people actually are not sure about that. So we can see that we ask them, suppose applying triple wash to reduce microbial safety risk would increase the cost by 5%. How much would you increase your price? You can see that lots of people doesn't know about, not sure about that. And we ask the same question again, and suppose a triple wash can reduce microbial safety percent by 5%. Adopt a 3 steps wash may increase your production cost. What is acceptable range? And still more than close to 20% of the people doesn't know their prospect for that. And so that means there is still the training needs to be done to relate to the triple wash. So, and we finished some of the work. We work with our extension service to publish this fact sheets, which is applying 3-step wash during produce processing. And I had a 20% appointment with our extension service. So that was part of my job. And I also worked with West Virginia Small Farm Conference Center. We published this newsletter based on our study. It's a pilot plant study at Preston County Workshop. One of our stakeholder, we focused on the butternut squashes. So, and we also did a little bit of the agroeconomic cost analysis. And then, because of due to the pandemic, our university encouraged us to have a YouTube channel for the teaching. And then I used a part of that for the extension activity also. So 2023, I created these very 2 short video about like 10-15 minutes. talk about the candidate and talk about the triple wash. And I use a very traditional teaching style, which is chalkboard talk. And I talk and I writing, so I think the growers could be easily understand the following what we are talking about. And these two short video demo adopted by the WV Small Farm Conference Center, and they put it at their website and send it out to some of the produce growers if they're interested about triple wash, and typically they want to know something more about Sanidate 5.0. And we also started to thinking about the triple wash handbook based on the objective 3. So here is we come out with our templates, and we are going to make about 40 pages. And we had a triple wash introduction, the concept, the candidate, and the triple wash impacts on different commodities, including the butternut squashes, tomatoes, cucumbers, spinaches, typically for microbial cross-contamination, economic feasibility, and also we're going to list the online resources for the triple wash. And just recently, right after the pandemic, and we started online, but recently we do almost everything in person, still keep some of the online format. We have the team working with WV Department of Agriculture and Farmers Market Association. We had a food safety outreach training group, and I was part of the instructor. So we're routinely to give the FSMA produce safety training, and I get a chance one time to integrate some of the triple wash knowledge there to the small growers. Challenges, I'm not a person like to make the excuse, but this is obviously on the news. Our university in last year was going through the very painful so-called academic transformation procedure. And we have numerous faculty members, including half our plant science division, which is some of the faculty work in the greenhouse and the high tunnel tomato processing. They are related to this project. They will get reduction in force. So, and very ironically, 2 of the faculty got a job position at the University of Missouri, Columbia, and the University of California at Riverside, and a very good school. So, and the whole situation is really a little bit painful, and the OSP is going through rearrangement, reorganized, so the start of this grant is delayed, but I told my team, and we just go ahead to do it regardless of what happens. We just keep going. So this project should be started in the summer 2023, but until December we just get request a budget, but we try to do our best to get balls rolling and let the work done, and we think we'll catch up the pace, and we'll do more next year. And so here is the outcomes. If we do the conclusion, we got 1 peer review publication. Although it's an extension project, but we work in the university, we still want to engage the student. So I still pay much attention to the peer review publication. And I do think Food Protection Trends is a very good journal for those extension publications. So we got 1 publication there, and we get 1 presentation at IFP, and we made 2 short course videos, 1 fact sheet, and 1 newsletter. And 2 our graduate students, and Dr. Rebecca Sterns and Jessica Temple, got a PhD and a master's degree in December 2023. And we complete the, we will, in the next year, we will complete the publish the triple wash handbook. We are currently doing another survey. We are going to compare their perspective of the triple wash for the growers in West Virginia and also in California. We will organize 2 to 3 workshops, typically 1 with our stakeholder at the Preston County workshop. And our new food safety team is organizing trainings this fall and winter, and we have relevant fact sheets for the participants. And also, we will distribute food safety information related to triple wash in our WV Farmers Market Association network website. So I appreciate all my graduate students, work hard and work with them. And here you can see this is Jessica Temple and Dr. Rebecca Sterns. Both of them were engaged in this project and they graduated last December. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shen, for talking about what's at stake.
Well, it is something that everybody is able to understand. Next slide, please. And so you'll see that in the Amish and Mennonite farms, they play increased importance within our food systems, state and regionally within New York State, as like accordance to that map. The produce that is grown is going all throughout New York State and also out of state. So we had to look at how can we support the food safety efforts within these farms. So within our grant, next slide, please. We came up with our grant objectives. We wanted to be able to develop culturally appropriate food safety learning tools in conjunction with a grower advisory group. We want to provide on-farm auction technical assistance, support food safety practices, adoptions on these individual farms. So we did a lot of outreach that'll be discussed in the next couple of slides at these produce auctions, because those are kind of like the targeted way for them to sell. So these produce auctions allow us to come in and do educational trainings specifically at those produce auctions. And then another objective was to deliver ADAPT Produce Safety Alliance grower trainings for auction communities subject to the FSMA. And then offer a professional development workshop for educators to facilitate peer-to-peer sharing of extension strategies when working with the plain growers. So that was something that we wanted to provide for New York State, but also nationally, since there are a large amount of these plain communities across the United States. Next slide, Elizabeth, your turn.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Hodgson. I'm a regional vegetable specialist with Cornell's Eastern New York Commercial Horticulture Program. So for our outreach efforts on this grant, Lindsey mentioned that we attended many of their produce auction meetings, and these communities in particular really value getting together in person, and they value educational opportunities. So we would present food safety information to them in small portions at meetings that we were invited to. We also were attending field walks and twilight meetings and would incorporate some of the food safety information while we were on farm, talking about production issues and trying to highlight the business implications of food safety and how prioritizing food safety can improve product quality, and why food safety is important for their business. We also spent a lot of time visiting individual farms and spending time with growers to help them better understand their specific farm scenario and how we could support them in improving farm food safety. We have also conducted PSA grower trainings that were adapted to meet their needs and that were culturally appropriate. So as Lindsey mentioned, we offered some trainings without the use of PowerPoints and made sure that we were using examples that were reflective of the practices that are used on Amish farms. And we partnered with Ag and Markets to try to identify specific farms in the plain communities that needed the trainings so that they could get their certificates. So we've had great attendance at our meetings so far. So there's an example of an auction meeting on the right, kind of pairing some of the food safety information with production there. I think that the field meetings were a good opportunity for learning because at an individual field meeting, a grower would host and members of the community would come over and we would walk around their fields and talk about, what we're seeing for pests and disease. But at the same time, we also had the opportunity to highlight, for example, some irrigation best management practices for produce safety, or we would tour somebody's pack shed and have the grower talk to the group about how they just made those decisions for design with keeping hygiene and pest management in mind, to maintain a clean wash pack area. So those were good opportunities for learning and peer-to-peer interactions within the community to talk about food safety. The next slide, please. So a few takeaways from working with the plain growers. Lindsey mentioned that many of the folks in the communities are receiving formal education until the 8th grade, and they do value learning, after their formal schooling is over. But we found that many of the existing food safety resources, some of them contained maybe too much jargon or really technical language that might not be familiar to these folks, and may be a little too maybe using a lot of regulatory language that might not be well understood or taken well by the community. So we wanted to develop some resources that we could use in our outreach that used simpler language, again, using culturally appropriate situations and examples based on the practices that they use on their farms. And one of the outputs of the project was a curriculum that was developed. And I should mention, Robert Haddad's on the call, and he worked on a lot of those resources with colleague Lori Koenig. And we use these fact sheets on major food safety concepts at our meetings, and those individual worksheets that we would give to growers at the meetings really broke down different food safety concepts into kind of broke them down so that they were easier to understand. We also, during the course of this project, as we were working with individual farms, ourselves learned more of what the high priority food safety risks might be on farms, and kind of set some priorities for our future FSOP project, which has already started this fall, actually. So for example, water quality was one major area that we identified. Another output from the project was, again, working with ag and markets to identify specific farms that needed PSA training to meet their inspection requirements. We were able to offer PSA training so that those folks get their certificates. Okay. Lindsey mentioned that we held a professional development webinar for educators back in March. And I really enjoyed this webinar because we included not only some talks from different state departments of ag and extension, but we also had some time for discussion in small groups. And that was valuable to learn from educators and regulators from different states and different areas throughout the region, talking about our experiences working with plain communities, how we can navigate those cultural differences, successes that we've had with food safety outreach, challenges that we've encountered. And it was just really great for this group of people from throughout the country really to come together and talk about this type of outreach. And with that, just want to acknowledge our project team. I mentioned Robert and Lori. Lindsey's on the call, and Crystal Stewart-Cortens was on the project team as well, working in the Mohawk Valley. And between our project members, we were working with most of the auctions throughout New York State. And our plan is to have those curriculum documents that we mentioned placed into the NECAFS clearinghouse. So we hope to be able to share those with you soon. And I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have. And I don't think we put our contact information on there, or maybe it's on the first slide, but we can put that in the chat in case anybody's interested in chatting further about the project.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Lindsey and Elizabeth, for those insights to keep safe our veggies and fruit. Michelle, it's your turn to speak, so go ahead and unmute.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Pull up my slide here. Okay. So hi everyone, I am Michelle Proscia. I am
Did
the
you
ag.
want them in the preview screen so you can see the PowerPoint? Oh, there you go. Perfect.
There you go. I'm Michelle Proscia. I'm the ag program manager here at Cornell Cooperative Extension in Sullivan County. And I'm speaking about our grant that we got, which is the Catskills Food Safety Outreach Program. So this grant was in partnership with 3 counties. Myself with Sullivan County, we partnered with Delaware County Cooperative Extension and Wayne County or Penn State Extension, Wayne County. So with this grant here, just as kind of a regional snapshot, because I know this is more or less nationwide here, we identified small amounts of farms within our region that are covered by the rule. Again, we have a lot of small, medium-sized farms, but mostly small. So we identified small amounts of farms that are covered by the produce safety rule, but larger amounts of farms that could also benefit from food safety education that may not be subject to the rule. And that goes across all 3 of these counties. And, there's a good amount of farms that we have within our region. And then I will note that also, I'll say, maybe since COVID or even prior to COVID, but I've seen a lot of a big boom or increases in new and beginning farmers that have been steadily coming into our region each year. And I find that they are great outlets to receive food safety education as well. Just some goals of the outreach program grant that we received was to expand existing food safety education that I was doing in our county and expand that into Delaware County and Wayne County, Pennsylvania. We were increasing food safety training and technical assistance to additional small and medium-sized farms within our region. And then one thing that I wanted to focus on this year with the grant was not only those farms who are subject to the produce safety rule, but to focus on producers who are exempt from the produce safety rule. And, I found basically that even though these farms can be exempt, that we feel that in our region, they're providing food to the same distribution channels as farms that are subject to the rule. So targeting those farms would help increase food safety knowledge, and which would be important with reducing and preventing foodborne illnesses. Additional goals are to increase the number of farms participating in the New York State Grown and Certified program, our Sullivan Fresh program, which I do have a slide about, regional food hubs, distributors. I mean, you name it. If they're marketing towards local food, we want to get our farmers involved. And then also targeting and providing training with producers who are historically socially disadvantaged and veteran-owned farmed as well. Some accomplishments that we have as of right now. And we still have about another 8-9 months left on our grant, so we still have time to definitely increase these numbers, which we will be planning on doing. But we have already increased producers who are New York State Grown and Certified. We have increased farmers who are record keeping compliant, which I do a lot of focus on record keeping, whether it be, business planning or for farm food safety. But I find it's a really strong area that I like to focus on. And seeing farmers who have now taken kind of ownership and hold on record keeping, I'm really proud of that stat. Also providing technical assistance to about 20 farms on food safety individually. And currently we've been on the move a lot and have visited about 50 farms regionally, so with more to come. Just as a snapshot here, again, we do have those smaller farms that we spoke about, but these farms are the same ones that are providing to distributors, food pantries, farmers markets, so it's good to have a good understanding of food safety across the board, no matter what size you are. In addition, this is our Sullivan Fresh program that we have at our office down in Sullivan County. We're lucky enough to have that. However, with our food safety grant this year, we were able to have our Sullivan Fresh Farmers Market on the move, which is basically a mobile farmers market, and the Sullivan Fresh Community Cupboard, which is like a mobile food pantry and a food pantry that we have. We have been able to increase the purchases from our local farms that have food safety plans and GAP plans or GAP audits by 20% already. So I'm really proud of that stat as well. Just a little background on that Sullivan Fresh, just to kind of give an impact statement for our region with that. A requirement of producers that farms that Sullivan Fresh purchases from that food for either the farmers market or the mobile food pantry is that they have to have a food safety plan or food safety training. So we're very cognizant of that. And then just to give scale, the Sullivan Fresh program purchased about $188,000 of local produce from farms since 2019. So. And then in addition to those, the educational piece, we've been doing a lot of technical assistance and providing updates on that final rule for harvest and post-harvest water. So just going out to farms, letting them know what the information is and get them up to speed on that. I've also been doing workshops with many more planned. But currently have done the on-farm composting and an understanding FSMA gaps in the produce safety rule. We're all well attended by farms throughout the region. And then upcoming here is our workshops and webinars. I plan to host produce safety trainings regionally, so one in each of the 3 counties that I'm working in. One in December, January, and February, and I will ask the group out here if any lead trainers would like to assist in this to help make these produce safety trainings happen. Please let me know. But then we'll also be doing some food safety plan writing, wholesale market readiness, which will be done in December. More workshops on farm worker health and hygiene and packaging. And of course, working along with our partner organizations, including our local food hub and extension offices, to go ahead and do more technical assistance and outreach with education. And with that, that is the end, but I would love if anybody has any questions. And then, of course, check out our website to see all our resources that we have posted.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Jameson and Sarah from Refugee Success, are you here? And I'm just missing you. Okay, then we are going to move on. Now we will have a quick update on project evaluation. Matt Benge is here with a brief summation. The PowerPoint looks good. I think you need to unmute, Matt.
Can everybody hear me and see my screen?
Yes, it looks good, and I hear you.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you so much. So for folks who don't know, my name is Matt Benge. I'm an associate professor at the University of Florida. So I work a lot with Keith and Peggy on the FSMA grant for the Southern region. And I'm here to give an update on FSOP evaluation and some updates on PSA evaluation protocols, hopefully to come soon. Just a quick snapshot in case you're unsure of who your FSOP evaluation liaison is. We have 4 regional kind of evaluation teams, as you can see: North Central, Northeast, Southern, and then Western. And we are each responsible for our own FSOP evaluations for the region. We do one evaluation total, using the same instrument, and then the North Central, Northeast, and Western regions forward all that regional data to me, and I put it together for kind of a national FSOP report. That's one of the rules of the LRCC. So at some point very soon, you will be receiving an email and some survey requests to complete the FSOP evaluation, because though we have our own individual FSOP projects, it's nice to put everything together and show kind of a national picture of all that great FSOP work everyone is doing. So at some point soon, when you receive that survey information, please make sure to take some time to gather your evaluation data up, so we can report all the great work that everyone's doing as a whole. We have not evaluated this past 2024 year for FSOP yet. So what I am providing is a snapshot of some of the data, the training and participant numbers from 2023. And this is collective from all 4 regions. And every region does different types of trainings and projects very differently. In the Southern region, we do a lot of PSA type trainings, which may not be the best fit for some of the other regions at that time. And so we can see across all 4 regions, we're seeing some really amazing numbers and total number of trainings nationally, which is really impressive. And this is just for one kind of a calendar year of FSOP project training and participant numbers. It's really great to see everyone. We also had really high response rates from our FSOP project directors to complete the FSOP survey. So thank you all very much for doing that. And if you didn't do it, that's okay. You can do it this coming year. But for folks that are new to the FSOP project director role, that survey will be coming out relatively soon. But we do have an update we did want to share with everybody. Part of our new FSMA grant cycle, one of the key pieces we wanted to do was kind of update and modify the evaluation instrument and protocol we use for the PSA training. In the Southern region, we still collect PSA test data knowledge right after the trainings are done. And then 4 months later, we send out an evaluation follow-up behavior change protocol survey for those participants. But every region kind of does a little bit of their own thing. And one of the things that we found with the PSA and the training data is the training data over the past 6 years hasn't changed. Folks are coming in with about the same amount of knowledge, and they're leaving with an additional amount of knowledge, and the change is significant. But the pre and the post training data knowledge is relatively the same, no matter what year or what region you're looking at. And so some of our regions aren't really collecting some of that data because we know that the data is consistent and it's not really changing. And so one thing that we wanted to do a little bit differently in this next go around is modify rather than focus on knowledge and skills acquisition and the test. I wanted to look at potential barriers to adopting those PSA practices that are taught in the trainings. And so right now we at the bottom we have a 4-step timeline. We're currently in step 2. So Lyndell Narine from Utah State created the initial draft of the PSA evaluation protocol. And right now our evaluation team from each of our regional centers are reviewing and commenting on those items. And then once all that's settled and we have agreed upon draft, we'll have select trainers from each region kind of review the instrument from their perspective to get some feedback. And then hopefully in sometime 2024, we'll be able to roll out a new PSA evaluation protocol. And the evaluation is going to focus primarily on Rogers' diffusion of innovations theory, which looks at kind of 5 key characteristics that lead to adoption, which are relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, so how easy or difficult something is to adopt, trialability, which is can someone test it and try it out first, and obviously the last one, observability, can someone observe it and see it, or other neighbors doing it and they can see it, something like that. So we're going to look at potential barriers that might lead somebody doing not doing it, or reasons why people are doing it in the future. So something look differently, because we know the data isn't really changing until a new PSA test and curriculum comes out. We can't really do anything differently on that end. So we're moving more in this direction and looking at potential barriers to adoption. And that's really all that I have for you. Really short and sweet overview. If I have any questions, please reach out. And again, when you receive the survey request for your FSOP project evaluation from your regional eval liaison, be sure to pencil that time in your calendar so y'all can go in and complete it so we can aggregate all of our data nationally for the USDA. With that said, that's all that I have, and I'm going to stop share.
Our FSOP webinar has now come to an end. Thank you for making an effort to attend. The link for the evaluation can be found in the chat. Please fill it out so we can get some feedback. Please plan to join next Tuesday using the exact same link. 7 new speakers will present and make you think. But we do have an extra minute here or two, so if the speakers want to turn their cameras back on, and if you have questions for any of them, please put them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself.
Also, if you wouldn't mind, there's a little React tab on the bottom if you want to hit that and throw up some virtual applause for our speakers today.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Amazingly, we give an applause to as Ellen as well. We actually finished on time, which is amazing. Chris, you have a high standard to live up to on Tuesday. Any questions? All right, Ellen, you want to close the show?
Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate it and hope to see you all on Tuesday.
Have a great weekend, everyone.